Welcome to part 1 of the musculoskeletal system. In this video we'll focus on the human skeleton. Your need to know structures for the skeletal system are the scapula, the mandible, clavicle, cranium, sternum, ribs, pelvic girdle, tibia, fibula, humerus, ulna and the radius. We'll also look at where in the body each of these structures are located and talk about some of their main functions. Question to get us started: how many bones are there in the adult human? Answer: 206 in total. Also need to know the function of bones. What is the skeleton there to do? So it's there to make up the framework of the body, to provide support. In particular, it's given an attachment point for the muscles, and this will allow for movement. An activity to get us started: pause the video and see if you can match up the common name to the scientific name for the following bones. So here are your need to know bones once again. If you pause this video, you can have a go at labelling your skeleton. See how many of these bones you can already state the location of and label up on your diagram. Take each section one at a time, starting with the head. The bones that you'll find here are the cranium or the skull and the mandible, which is your jaw. In the chest region, we have the clavicle, the scapula and the sternum. And within the abdomen, you have your rib cage. Within the upper limbs of the arms, you have the humerus, which is the large bone, your funny bone that connects to your shoulder. And you also have the radius and the ulna that connect to the hand. So the way to remember which is which of the two smaller bones is the radius is always in line with the thumb. Your radial pulse is the pulse that you find at your wrist, just underneath your thumb. So that radius aligns with the thumb, and therefore the ulna aligns with the pinky finger. And lastly, looking at the lower limbs of the leg, you have your femur, which is the large shin bone. You have the patella, which is your kneecap, and you have the two bones connecting to the foot, the tibia and the fibula. So the tibia is the larger of these two bones, with the fibula being the smaller one. Looking more closely at the structure and functions of bones, we've already talked about it providing that framework, acts as an attachment site. But another important feature of the skeletal system is it provides some protection for our vital organs. So for example, the skull will protect the brain, and our rib cage will protect the heart and the lungs. It also acts as a leverage system, so other structures will attach onto the skeleton, and it allows for movement and for other functions. So we'll also look at tendons and ligaments and cartilage. If we look a little bit more closely into what the bone actually looks like, if we were to look inside, you would find some bone marrow, and this is where our red and white blood cells are made. Also found a whole reserve of different minerals, some of the more common ones being calcium and also some phosphorus. Here's another activity for you to pause the video and try. So complete this table below. Which bone protects each of these internal organs? So bone is not a uniform material. Different parts of the bone, it'll look a little bit different. So two different types we have are compact bone. So there's this hard outer layer that has very few spaces. This is what gives bone tissue that smooth, white and solid appearance. But if we were to look within the bone itself, you'll find that it looks a little bit different. There's some more gaps where you find blood vessels and also where you find that bone marrow. So if we look at the femur as an example, here you can see around the outside that compact bone, much more rigid, much stronger, and inside you have your spongy component. So moving away from the bones and having a quick look at some of the other features of the skeletal system. First up, we have tendons. So these are fibrous tissues that will connect muscle to bone. They're mostly made of the protein collagen, and they will work with those muscles in order to allow for movement of the bones. So each different tendon will be of a different length, depending on where in the body it's located, and it will also vary from individual to individual. A good example to know about is the Achilles tendon, and this connects various muscles, including your calf muscle to your heel bone. It's about 15 centimetres in length, but it's absolutely vital to allow you to walk. Moving on to ligaments, again, they're quite similar to tendons. They're made of a fibrous tissue and of the protein collagen. But unlike tendons, they do not connect muscle to bone, but instead they connect bones to other bones. Their main job is to prevent excess of movement, to protect the bones and the muscles from any damage due to excess movement, force, or pressure. Here's an example of a ligament which connects the femur to the tibia within the leg. Finally, we'll also look at cartilage. This is quite a flexible tissue that you find in many different parts of the body. The area where it's commonly found is within the spine, so between each of the vertebral discs. But you'll also find it within the ears and the nose, and the bronchial tubes, which we'll look at when we come to the respiratory system. So this is almost like an in-between structure. It's not quite as hard and rigid as the bone, but it's still less flexible than the muscles are. So they will cover the surface of the joints of the body, and what this does is it allows the bones to slide over one another during movement without becoming damaged. So that is the need to know information for the skeletal system. In part two, we will look at the muscles.